Meow, it's Huples cat and Wolfie Terrier. We're reading aloud from a little booklet printed in 1957 for Her Majesty the Queen on the hydrogen bomb. This is video 2, and this is the chapter starting on page 8 entitled The Danger from Heat. The fireball from a nuclear explosion gives out an immense quantity of heat. With an atomic bomb similar to the one used at Nagasaki, the heat flash lasts for only about 1.5 seconds, and most of it is over in half a second. With the hydrogen bomb, heat is radiated for 20 seconds or more, most of it in the first 10 seconds. The danger to people. What would happen to anyone in the open directly exposed to the heat? People have gained some inkling from nuclear tests. At one test, for example, the device exploded was rather more powerful than the bombs dropped in Japan. The day was clear, which favoured the radiation of heat, and the observers were 6 miles away. Even at this distance, their eyes would have been temporarily blinded, if not permanently injured, had they not worn very dark glasses. As the fireball rapidly expanded, they felt as if an oven door had been opened only a few feet away. If the distance had only been 1 or 2 miles, their skin would have been severely burned. At half a mile, they would have been killed. With a hydrogen bomb, these distances would be increased, though not as much as might be expected. The heat radiation from a hydrogen bomb lasts longer. On a fine, cloudless day, it might be felt as far as 50 miles away, but without injury to the skin. At 16 miles, exposed skin might be injured. At 4, the burns would be fatal to anyone in the open. Mist or fog would reduce the range of the heat. They act as a barrier against heat rays, just as they do against the rays of the sun. Anything that keeps off the sun's heat will help to give protection against the heat of a nuclear bomb. At Hiroshima, for instance, a painted surface was scorched except where it was in the shadow of a wheel. The protection given by clothing depends on the distance from the explosion. The chances of escaping serious burns are increased by wearing hat and gloves and slacks or trousers. At Hiroshima, some Japanese women who had on white cotton dresses with a darker pattern suffered burns only beneath the pattern. The skin under the white material escaped. This was because white or light-coloured material reflects heat while dark materials absorb it. Colour apart, woolen clothes would be less likely to catch fire than cotton. If clothing did catch fire and there was no time to throw it off, the best way to put out the flames would be to roll over and over on the ground. All this applies only to people caught in the path of the heat rays. Any solid substance would give full protection against this danger, and a few minutes warning of the attack would give people time to take cover. Even if they only heard a warning, people at a distance who took cover even a few seconds after the explosion of a hydrogen bomb would escape some of the heat. Page 10. The danger to buildings and their contents. Any inflammable material exposed to the heat radiated from the fireball may be ignited. Thus, lace curtains in windows greatly increase the fire risk, as they in their turn might set light to the contents of a room and in the end might cause a general fire in the building. It must be recognised that within 3 or 4 miles of a hydrogen bomb, all buildings would be completely or almost completely destroyed by the blast. Around this central devastated area, fires would break out in a number of damaged houses. At Nagasaki, the belt of main fires reached a little over a mile from the atom bomb explosion. With a hydrogen bomb, it might reach as far as 10 miles, though this distance would be reduced on a dull, misty day. Still further out, fires might be caused by the effects of blast. Gas mains would be burst, electric wires short-circuited, and the contents of domestic fires scattered. Such fires might be expected anywhere up to 20 miles from the explosion. Page 11. Precautions in buildings. Simple precautions can be taken against heat radiation, remembering that brick or stone will not catch fire, but the contents of a house might. The aim would be to prevent as much heat as possible from entering at all. One simple way would be to whitewash the windows. This would block some 80% of the rays, and as they travel at the speed of light, most of the heat would be over and gone before the whitewashed windows could be broken by the slower moving blast. Also, anything inflammable could be removed from the windows and doorways. In built-up areas, the lower stories would probably be shielded by other buildings. Here, a householder would need to pay particular attention to the upper floors with a full view of the sky and clear the rooms accordingly. If the heat were kept from causing fires by these simple precautions, one of the major hazards would be greatly reduced. Equally simple measures could be taken to prevent fires caused by the blast. Stoves could be shut down, coal and electric fires extinguished, and the gas shut off at the main. Many of the fires caused by a hydrogen bomb could be put out by methods familiar in the last war, by beating or with a stirrup pump, or with a bucket of sand or water. If his house was not too badly damaged, a householder's first job after an explosion would be to look for such small fires and put them out. Speed would be important. Only when they had looked around and dealt with any fires would people take shelter from the possible approaching fallout. Page 12. The danger from blast. Blast is familiar to many of us. It caused much of the destruction in Hitler's air raids. As would be expected, the blast from a hydrogen bomb travels further than that of a high explosive bomb. But it does not strike like a sudden blow. Its action is drawn out, more like a hurricane. The effect on buildings. An atomic bomb of the type dropped on Nagasaki, if burst 1,000 feet above the ground, would level all buildings within half a mile. Buildings between half and 3/4 of a mile away would be damaged beyond repair. Those up to 2 miles away would suffer severe to moderate damage. Light damage would extend as far as 3 miles. The damage from a hydrogen bomb would extend for distances 7 or 8 times as great. A bomb bursting at ground level is expected to produce a saucer-shaped crater about a mile wide and up to 200 feet deep, with debris from the crater scattered in a ring about 2 miles across. The remains of any buildings in this area would be buried by the debris. A ground-burst bomb, however, would not cause damage over such a wide area as one burst high in the sky. With an airburst, the damage above the ground would extend further. The blast wave enters through the windows or doors of most buildings and builds up pressure inside. The roof is forced upwards and the walls outwards. When the blast cannot get in so easily, the position is reversed and the building tends to be crushed inwards. Buildings which survive these effects may still be pushed over sideways by the continuing blast wind. Best at resisting pressure are heavily framed steel and reinforced concrete buildings or those with rounded, streamlined surfaces. In Nagasaki, for instance, most of the tall factory chimneys survived. Page 14. The danger to people. At Hiroshima and Nagasaki, very few injuries such as perforated eardrums were caused directly by the blast itself. The real danger is that people would be struck by falling masonry, flying debris, or fragments of glass, or might themselves be thrown against some object. The warning system, however, is designed to enable people to get under cover. A slit trench, especially if covered with a few feet of earth or a cellar or basement, would give good protection. If there is no cellar or basement, it would be safest under the stairs, or under a table or bed, which would give some protection should the roof or ceiling collapse. And if there is no time to reach such places before the flash is seen, the best place indoors would be close to an inside wall, avoiding windows, or anywhere in the possible path of flying glass. People caught unprotected in the open could at least try to shelter from the rubble and flying debris, if only in doorways or behind walls or even trees. Failing this, they could fall flat on the ground with the head and face covered, if possible close to the wall of a substantial building or in a nearby ditch or gutter. Thanks for listening. Next time on The Hydrogen Bomb, 1957, we're going to talk about the danger from radioactivity. That will take the whole of video 3. Video 4 will be the last one in this series, and it is civil defence against nuclear weapons. Well, I hope you're all very well. Me and Wolfie are fine. I hope you're enjoying reading this. Thanks for watching. Toodles! This was a Sleepy Nine-Toed Terrier production, 2022.